Hello and welcome to the original podcast. I'm your host, Jamie, from the YouTube channel known as Inside a Mind, and my co-host today is Eric Nielsen from the YouTube channel known as the Looney Turtle.
Hello and welcome to another episode. It's going to be fun. Today with us is one of the active players in the alternate reality game known as the Jejune Institute, Cantillions. Welcome.
That's right, Cantillions it is. This whole thing is definitely a big blast from the past, let me tell you. It's been, 4 or 5 years now since the Jejune Institute officially ended, so it's crazy to be kind of going back down this old rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And so excited for the new Dispatches from Elsewhere show.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm interested in it. It's certainly drawn a lot more new faces to the old game as well. Actually, I was going to ask you how you got into the ARG first, but I think the best thing to start out with is actually giving a bit of an overall synopsis of what the Jejune Institute is for the viewers listening. Mm-hmm. Would you like to obviously explain that for us, Cantillions?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Jejune Institute started back, like I said, about 5 years ago, and it started making waves in the San Francisco Bay Area. This is where it was all located. Much like you see with the Dispatches from Elsewhere, new Neurology game, there were a whole bunch of posters being placed on lampposts throughout San Francisco. The Mind to Media Center, where this company, the Jejune Institute, will read your dreams, read your mind. The time camera, where you can take pictures, back in time. All this really wacky, crazy stuff. And so slowly more and more people just kind of naturally started calling the phone number on the flyer, and it led to the rabbit hole that is the Jejune Institute. It was a massive ARG, almost like a scavenger hunt in a way, that where the story would expand upon itself as you just played. And towards the end, the people who were playing the game actually added to the story itself. There became kind of this interactive feature where new players or old players would create their own experience within this world of Elsewhere and Jejune Institute, all in the streets of San Francisco. It was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever done. And, of course, I can go a little bit further into the story of what it's actually all about, but yeah, that's how I started.
Yeah,
and then I found out more about it on the Unfiction forums. Rest in peace.
Oh yeah,
the huge ARG forums back in the day. So that's how I started.
That's very good. Yeah, well, I guess we'll go into a little bit more detail then about the Jejune Institute story, and probably bring in Eva as well, because obviously that was a main focus of the old one. And then we can probably talk a little bit about what's changed in the... I'm going to guess that it's a reboot. Me and my friends kind of guess it's a reboot since they're using a different name for a girl that's missing. Do you want to obviously give a bit of an idea of who Eva is and why she's key to this story?
Yeah, absolutely. So Eva, she was a kind of like this backdrop to the entire game, at least at the very beginning. When you did the first, what we called act of the Jejune Institute, you actually went to the offices. You did a whole induction process where you became part of the Institute, and that required you to do a scavenger hunt through Chinatown in San Francisco, looking behind statues, opening up locked boxes on the side of the street. But everywhere you went, there was all posters and messages about a missing girl named Eva. Have you seen this woman? Do you know where she is? And so it started off as a mystery of who is this woman and why is she so important? And as the game progressed, we would find, we actually found an old box of some of her old recordings, as in home video recordings. Mm-hmm. We were able to go and find her old journal, which had notes all about this place called Elsewhere. And Elsewhere essentially is a higher plane of existence where your body kind of physically, your physical body's gone, and then you ascend to Elsewhere, where it's with all the artists and the homeless, and it's a life where you don't have to worry about anything, and life just takes care of you. It's kind of like a weird metaphysical take, but as we progressed in the story, it turned out that she didn't disappear. She ascended to Elsewhere. So that's who Eva was, and she would communicate to us through this game.
Oh, right. Okay. That's pretty cool.
That makes sense.
It makes obviously some sense. It's great. I'm really excited for this, man. It's just getting all hyped just thinking about it.
It's so different.
I bet, yeah, it is so different. It's weird that this game got a lot of popularity, but I hadn't really heard of it until the new Neurology Network had come around. And then once that came around, I'd obviously started hearing about the documentary that was on Amazon, and then everything that was taking place, obviously, in 2008 to 2009. And it turns out this game probably got more publicity than most alternate reality games. Do you think there's a reason for that? Or is it just kind of like it just got lucky? Or did this really stand out compared to others?
I think it's kind of a two-folded reason. The main reason why it didn't get as much publicity as, let's say, an I Love Bees, the classic Halo ARG, because it was very much centered in only San Francisco Bay Area, because all of the inhuman and like an in-person interactions, those were all, you had to be in San Francisco to do them. But it did become big because it was so vastly different. There was no marketing company. You weren't trying to be sold, I don't know, Ovaltine. You were just going there, and it was purely experience that cost no money whatsoever. And it really showed the richness of San Francisco. And it really, it's really strange to say, but when I played the game, I had a much different mindset about the city than I did before. The Octavio Coleman, like the big bad guy of the show, of the game, was saying that, oh, you will begin noticing the divine happening all around you, and you're like, okay, he's just trying to be weird. But after you did the first act, you would start noticing small things across the city. You're not sure, is that part of the game? Because anywhere you can go, you can find clues. And so that's what happened. You really did your mindset did change, and like it said in the Institute, people really fell in love with with these puzzles and these trials and the friendships that were built. It's pretty crazy.
That does sound crazy. And by looking at the city differently, is that by like when you went down, like, I don't know, maybe you went to work the next day and you saw something on the wall, you kind of, does your mind start making all these connections, like wondering, oh, is that connected to a game or something like that? Is that what you mean by a different experience around the city?
Exactly. That is 100% the case, because San Francisco's full of art and street art tags, random things around everywhere. Perfect example is that I was walking down the street, and I've probably walked down this one Green Street, I want to say. Many times, and then just one day, because I was kind of looking out, it turned out somebody installed it looked like a little door with plants and a little light fixture on the side of a wall, like for a mouse, essentially, like a little mouse hole that was actually a home. And I never noticed that before playing this game, and I was just like, wow, that's so cool. I know it had nothing to do with the Jejune Institute, but you open your eyes a bit more, and you just see how cool and how unique things are around the city. So
that's really cool. Some of the puzzles, obviously, was there any particular puzzle that was extremely difficult in the game that you almost either rage quit on at all?
Nothing. Actually, one of the hardest ones is, so in the second act, it was based in the Mission District in like Dolores Park in the city. And in the game, they consider that the people who are homeless or who are buskers are actually, part of this, elsewhere mentality. Because the idea of elsewhere is that you remember, how when you watch a cartoon, this is kind of a little bit of a segue, sorry, but those old cartoons where a character sleepwalks and walks out their window and then walks onto a metal girder. But then the girder lowers and they just kind of sleepwalk throughout their entire town. By the end of the day, they always come back home. that's what the people of Elsewhere are. They may not really be, in the present or in the moment, but the guiding light of Elsewhere and nonchalance guides them to the promised land, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So they believe that that's what homeless are. But we actually had to go to some buskers to pick up clues for one of the solutions to the puzzle. There are these little wooden hobo nickels. And to actually get that was extremely difficult. A lot of them lost it or didn't know what to do with it. It was quite interesting, but that was, I guess, the hardest part. It was just that third party that was not that couldn't really control. So
right, yeah, I get that. Did you, obviously, because I watched the Amazon documentary, were you part of the time when they had to go to a payphone where they had to call and obviously listen in on the man telling you to dance, and then a Sasquatch ended up appearing out of nowhere?
Yep, that I was actually in that video.
Oh,
and yeah, I was one of the guys in there, and I was actually talking to Commander 14 on the phone. That was weird. That was such a wild it was like a spy movie moment, and then out of nowhere, you're dancing with a Yeti, and then you have a map, and it's just weird. It was the most fun though I had while I was living in that city.
Yeah. Do you want to give a brief introduction to Commander 14? Is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah.
Commander 14. He was the head of the resistance against the Jejune Institute, working for what they call the Elsewhere Public Works Agency.
Mm-hmm.
Commander 14 was the one who sent out dispatches to us from dispatches from Elsewhere.
Yeah.
And he was kind of like our main point of in-game contact with the Elsewhere Public Works. Like, he's the one who assigned us, gave us code names, and then he's the one who actually set up the fake protest, or the real protest actually, in San Francisco.
It was technically a real protest, wasn't it?
yeah, it was.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I think, I guess since we're still on the topic of those puzzles, since I asked for your hardest, do you have a favorite one that you really loved?
Okay, so...
Or you can talk about a couple if you want to.
Yeah, of course. I definitely have to preface one thing, though, is that these puzzles were... There was very little actual puzzle solving, maybe a few, trying to decipher a password to log in to the Jejune Institute website, for example. Okay. But a lot of it was experiences that kind of came along. But you can consider them puzzles as well. Probably my favorite one is actually one of the last ones. It was Act 4, where we went to it's a beautiful graveyard and mausoleum in Oakland called Chapel of the Bells. Absolutely beautiful. If you're ever out in Oakland, go visit it.
Okay.
And so we were it was me and 3 other people, all random people, and that's what they kind of wanted, because we had our own little groups in the Jejune Institute, who we talk to each other all the time. But now they got 4 random strangers together who've never really talked to each other, and put them into this group where they had to go do this experience together without knowing each other, and it required anyways. So when you get there, the experience is that we were supposed to listen to Eva was going to speak to us, or Eva. She was going to communicate directly to us, and we're going to figure out more about this mystery of where'd she go, why is she missing, and that's where she explained to us that she ascended to Elsewhere. But the way that she communicated to us were through these golden radios placed throughout the graveyard, and we would go there, press the play button, and she would speak to us. And what she would say, okay, this is what happened to me. I'm okay. I'm safe. But now I need you to follow this map that was hidden in the room and go to another room. And we had to do 2 things. One thing, we had to be blindfolded, and one of our partners would guide us through this maze. And then the person who guided me, then I would guide them while they were blindfolded. And then at the very end, Ava was like, I want you to all put on your blindfolds, and I will guide you. And then some obviously some person who set up the game actually took the person in front's hand and guided us through this giant maze to this new area that was kind of secret. I don't know. It was just a really, really cool experience that, we felt like Eva was with us there. I know it's just a fake story, but it was kind of cool. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think that's the purpose of alternate reality games, is to create that kind of experience, because it's something that movies can't do. There's always that barrier between movies. Even if you make something like Deadpool that breaks the fourth wall, you still know it's a movie. But there's something completely different about you actually taking part in something. You're almost the protagonist of the story, uncovering this mystery or going down this rabbit hole. And I can only imagine what that actually must feel like, because even though it's kind of back now with the new Neurology Network, it's not to the extreme that the Jejune was, because it's more all online pretty much. Or I assume everything's still going to continue online. There might be a few stuff that's maybe out in the open, but probably nothing compared to what the original did. So yeah, I can only imagine what that obviously must feel like in that case.
Yeah. Yeah, and once again, I think that's what was so pure and great about the Jejune Institute experience, is that it wasn't just marketing. And I'm not saying new Neurology is bad just because it's marketing a TV show. Yeah. Far from it. But when you're not like I did one with the Audi, like you had to find the missing Audi, and that was kind of cool because you're dealing with detectives and stuff. But at the end of the day, you're just looking at how great Audi is as a vehicle, and it's so great. And I'm just like, okay, it's kind of cool, but I'm being sold on something.
Yeah.
This though.
What was the main intention for this? Do we actually know, or did he explain? Because I didn't have a chance to actually look into that part. Yeah.
The creator, Jeff Hull, I think he was trying to maybe create from what it sounds like, he wanted to scale this up and have a Jejune Institute-like experience in cities all over the United States or the world.
Yeah.
Because he's very much of a grassroots guy. He was part of a team called Oaklandish in Oakland. They were a community organization, made clothes and, did all this really great experiences. Kind of like the Jejune, but a little bit more on smaller scale.
Okay.
But I think he's just an artist. He's just an artist and wanted to relive his youth, with this excitement and this adventure, and he just wanted to give it to the people, which is pretty great for him.
Well, yeah, pretty much. I guess one of the things actually I didn't write in my notes though, but it's the characters disguised as players. They appear in the documentary, or at least from what I know, a few of them, and they disguise them as real. So I was wondering if you could point out the ones that are characters for the viewers listening. So if they watch the documentary back, they'll know which ones can be characters and which ones are actual players.
Well, I'm pulling the curtain back a little bit, aren't I?
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Okay, I'll do it for you guys and your listeners. So one big key player, and keep in mind that almost all these in-game characters that are pretending to be players, almost all of them were players at the very beginning.
Oh,
you have to keep this in mind. Yeah, they started off as just oh, this is cool, but then they started getting really involved. I was almost kind of one of those characters because even though I didn't get direct, I did get direct contact from the game makers. For example, me and 3 other people, like I said, were to, host or to lead this protest against the Jejune Institute. But that was originally started by a character named Dry Bones.
Yes.
Who I think could be Brian. I'm not sure.
There's
don't
a theory.
Quote me on this. Yes. It looks like him, but I can't be 100% certain. Anyways, Dry Bones was definitely one of those big guys. There was another character, Organelle. I know in the documentary he had a silhouette. I'm still to this day don't know if he was a plant or if he was just a really wacky guy. I don't know.
It's 50-50.
It's 50-50 there. We had some characters with us for sure.
Oh
Yeah,
wow,
but
it's funny.
but definitely Dry Bones. Dry Bones is a big part of it. So.
Oh man, what did you actually think of the documentary overall?
I thought it was great. I thought it was honestly in the even kind of blurred. Spoiler alert: there is a little bit of blurring of the Jejune Institute and reality. And I love how they kind of just leave that open to interpretation, much like we did when we were playing. Just thought it was super cool.
Yeah.
Spencer McCall, he's the producer now for Dispatches from Elsewhere, and that guy is fantastic. He's extremely talented, and I'm really glad to have met him and still talk to him to this day.
Oh, really? Oh, that's pretty cool then.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he won't tell me anything about the ARG or the show, dang it.
He's not giving away
I
anything.
get it. He's not giving away anything.
You're trying to say, is Dry Bones Brian? Come on, man, you gotta give me something.
Give me anything. No.
Oh, dear. One of the things as well is with the game, especially from the documentary that people pointed out, that some players were a little disappointed with the ending. And so I obviously wanted to get your opinion on the ending, because you were obviously one of the players. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
It was a very interesting ending.
Well, actually, let's. Do you want to explain the ending first, and then we'll?
That'd be. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
So, we as players, we have all sided as this game continued with this company called the Elsewhere Public Works Agency, and they're the ones who are fighting against false nonchalance, evilness, and corruption in the world. And the Jejune Institute is the head of this program. So we were all instructed to infiltrate the Jejune Institute finally for its 2011 or 2010 induction seminar, where it's where we would all join together and we would go in there to get more information about, who's Eva, where's she at, where's Blair Lucian, and we need to, eventually we'll just take down this big conglomerate. And it was held in a really beautiful hotel in San Francisco. And essentially it was an all-day long spiritual and, how would I even say it? It was kind of like a... Have you ever gone to one of those like work conferences where you have like the guest speaker up there who kind of gets you all pumped up? And you do like all these small team building exercises, which was really kind of cool. And for a lot of us, we were the day before we had to go down to the hotel and get our mind read by by somebody in the Jejune Institute, and we had to steal like this little. There's a reason for this side. You had to steal like this little ball of tea. It's like a little dried ball of tea, right? But that was like supposed to be some sort of metaphysical apparition that we needed to bring with us to the actual seminar. So fast forward, we've been doing all these team building activities. We've all been running around, and then finally, like the head guy who we're always kind of suspicious about, he was like, "Okay, I all know you guys have the power balls in your pocket. Take it out." And everybody's just like kind of quiet, like, "Oh no, did we mess something up? Did we not win?" And he's like, "I want you to drink the tea." And all of us were so scared, not because we thought we were going to be physically hurt or anything like that, but just that we somehow failed in the game. And it turns out at the very end that the Jejune Institute and the Elsewhere Public Works Agency were working together the whole time. I guess.
Okay.
And it was a weird twist, and I still don't really know why. The running theory is that the creators had an original idea of us maybe like doing another big protest or demonstration, but I think they just got so big that they just had to have a nice, calm, and non-anxious and protesting ending. So I think that's what happened, but I can't be too sure.
Okay, so right. Okay, is it because they didn't want the players to get out of control. They were worried the players might get out of control with how big it was getting. Or
yes, that's the running theory. I have absolutely zero proof that's true, but as even with the ending, everything was kind of a little bit, it was the curtain really wasn't pulled back all that much.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So what were your personal thoughts on that? I guess is the best next question.
So for the day itself, the experience, it was a whole lot of fun. I had a blast. I thought it was super neat and really interesting and kind of fun to be hanging out with all these people you've only really communicated with online, and you're all together in one room, enjoying the final act of the Jejune Institute. But as a story, I think it kind of fell flat, but it still was a great experience. We all drank afterwards, though, too, so that made it better.
Yeah. Fair enough. Oh man, yeah, that's a bit of a strange ending. I wonder how Dispatches from Elsewhere will end up handling that then, because like I was speaking to my friends about it. Actually, I was speaking to Eric about it the other day as well, who's here. We at first we were thinking maybe it's a sequel, but then when obviously we brought up the idea that Eva, in the trailer it says you must find Clara. I'm going to assume that is supposed to be Eva or Ava, and it's probably going to be a reboot, which would make sense since it's going to be on TV and it's going to be to an audience that knows nothing about the Jejune Institute.
Maybe that could be the reason that they had the ending they did, so that they could use the real ending for like a TV series.
That could be another running theory. I also want to ask you your personal thoughts on this, Cantillion, about the new Neurology Network, because my mate, who obviously he's done a lot of research for me for the Jejune Institute, and he is not too caught up on the NNN, but what do you think about the new Neurology Network? Do you think that's supposed to be the Jejune Institute, or because I don't believe there's been any mention of the Jejune Institute in this particular universe?
Correct.
So,
That's a great question. I have two running theories, and I mean it pretty much covers all bases, unfortunately. But it's either one or two things. It's either that the new Neurology Network, because they're doing the exact same stuff as the Jejune Institute did, using the Mind to Media Center, the sleep, the dream recordings, polywater, all of these things that the Jejune Institute did. I have a feeling that maybe they may not make it very clear, but this could be the newest iteration of the Jejune Institute. After our experience, they kind of went underground and they rebuilt themselves because everybody knew about Jejune, and so now they've rebuilt themselves as the new Neurology Network.
Okay.
Or it's just a completely soft reboot and brand new
brand new name.
That's it. Yeah,
brand new
exactly.
name,
But same idea.
I'm wondering. Actually, having said that, I've just realized. I remembered the trailer. They literally say the Jejune Institute, don't they? At the very beginning, there's
Wait, you're right.
Isn't it virtual BFF, the woman who obviously speaks to you through the trials? I'm sure she's there at the beginning of the. I just remembered that. Yeah. Okay, so it's obviously exists in this world then, the Jejune Institute.
Yeah. It must. Yeah, you're right.
I can't believe I just glossed over that. Okay, mid theories, midway through the podcast. Trying to think now. So maybe it's like an off-brand company, a subsidiary company, maybe, or something, or something. It must be like a small version of the Jejune Institute, since like you said, they're doing the exact same stuff. I mean, they started the same as well. They had flyers being handed out. Is that how you got into the game? Did you come across the flyers, or was it over forums online?
It was all from the Unfiction forums, actually, and then because I lived a little bit outside the city, but I would travel there all the time. And actually, I'll just tell a brief story of when I first started. So I was on the forum, and I was, whenever you do ARGs, especially the dead drops and such, you record everything for the internet, because like other people across the world want to see what happens. So I brought my camera and I started recording the whole experience. While I was sitting in the chair in the induction room and everything. And the funny thing is that I think the game makers knew I was coming, because as I'm trying, because the first part is after you get inducted in the room, you have to sneak out of the building by going through the fire escape without being detected. It even says that there on the card that you're given, like the little map for all the clues. And as I'm walking down the stairs, like trying to find the next clue, I hear somebody open up the door behind me and starts yelling, "Hey, who's there?" And so I crap myself and I go running out towards the fire exit. And then I think somebody was following me the entire time. Every time I turned around, like I would see like the same person in like a black coat, like kind of peeking and looking at me the whole time. It was just the weirdest thing.
That's clever. That could build some right paranoia for you.
Absolute paranoia.
I'd have loved that. Just turning around and then like this guy in a black suit. Oh my god, I'd feel like I was gonna get taken away. If I'd have found the flyers, and then just gone to that building without actually checking on forums or anything like that, and I see this induction video, and then next minute I just see this guy watching me with a black suit. Oh my god. Yeah.
And then they post on the forum their YouTube link, because I guess they were recording in that room the whole time, like in a little like security camera, and they said that we are watching you, and there's a video of me sitting there watching I'm just like, oh dude, what? This ain't cool. This is crazy.
Oh man, I wonder how how people would react to that now. Because I don't know if people are more accepting. I know obviously online, when you kind of present it as fictional and show everyone that it's fictional, people are like, oh yeah, that's a really cool project. Wow, I can't believe people overreacted to this particular thing. But then if you put those exact same people in those situations, they usually end up reacting the same or worse. So I can't. It's hard to determine now if it would be accepted better or if it'd be accepted worse if you put those people in those situations with the exact same context you had at the time.
I think that one of the main reasons why it did feel so different than most ARGs, and that kind of that same thought, is that when I talked to Jeff, towards the end of the experience, he never knew what an ARG was. He came up with this whole idea on his own. He's never heard of ARGs. He never saw one, never did anything about it, but he essentially just made his own ARG without even knowing it. So I think those normal customs that you see in other games, he didn't follow because he didn't even know.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing. To me, a lot of the best ARGs or alternate reality games, whatever you want to obviously call them, the best usually comes from people who have no idea what they are. The amount of times where I've come across a decent ARG and covered it, and then I've usually got in contact with the creator after, they always usually say, oh, I didn't know it was an ARG, and I was just putting something together, and then it just spiraled into this thing. There's a YouTube channel called Dad, which is an alternate reality game technically, because it's got puzzles, it's got interactivity, so it's an ARG, but he's done it in a much more clever way, because a lot of people now, when they try to make their own ARG, they always put in the stereotypical puzzles of Morse code, binary, but they don't have a reason behind those puzzles. But Dad gave a reason for those puzzles, because it's all about an AI learning. So that's the whole reason why he has binary hidden in his videos, because it's a computer. So that was kind of the first time I'd really officially seen that with code and having a reason for it. And then not only that, he broke he didn't break character, but he broke that fourth wall with people who investigate alternate reality games, which is the first time that's ever happened. Usually when you cover an alternate reality game, they just stay in their own world and continue the story that they had planned out. They'll still interact with players, but they'll never acknowledge the coverage that they've had. So until it's obviously finished. Dad obviously broke that. And so simple, but yet it's the first time it had ever happened before. And And then a previous guy who called 70 Broad. That's technically not an alternate reality game, but people started calling it because it had some interactivity with players. But it was probably more of an interactive web series, that one. But he had a lot of interesting twists and turns in his story. And again, it was all just, I had this idea and I put it together, but I had no idea what an alternate reality game was at the time.
Yeah, it kind of feeds into something we said in one of the earlier casts, where it's just you're making something. It's another way of telling a story, and if you utilize your tools well, then you can tell a really great story. But you kind of have to try.
And I was obviously looking into another alternate reality game called Perplexity. That obviously was designed around puzzles, and the creator of that, well, not technically the creator, one of the creators, wasn't into puzzles and didn't really do many puzzles himself, so that kind of created some unique puzzles on its own, because obviously he wasn't really into that kind of thing, and he brought an outside mind into this particular area, and I think that's always fresh, and you're always going to get some interesting ideas from people who haven't fully experienced stuff like that. Actually, here's another question. Have you been in any other alternate reality games before the Jejune Institute, or was this like your first one?
The before the Jejune Institute, I did, like I said, the Audi one and I Love Bees a little bit.
Oh, the Audi one was before the Jejune Institute. I thought it might
yeah,
have
it
been
was.
after.
No, it was during it. It was pretty. It was right after, I think, I Love Bees.
Oh, so, right, okay.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was definitely interesting. I didn't really have as much, interaction as, of course, as the Jejune Institute, because that was next level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Was there any others? I know you mentioned I Love Bees, but were there any others before then?
No, I think that was really it. I played like some of the small ones that were fan created, like on the Unfiction forums. Kind of just went down that. But mostly this really was. Ever since I played the Jejune Institute, I tried playing other ARGs. I'm like, this isn't the same. This isn't really as fun.
It's trying to find that to scratch that itch, but you just can't. That's a shame.
I can't get it.
Yeah.
It was actually on that though. It was pretty cool because after like the end of the Jejune Institute, I've seen it like people talking about it on the new Neurology, discords, that the Elsewhere I can never pronounce it. The Elsewhere numismatists, numismatic.
Oh my God.
And Philatelic Society. Anyways, the stamp collecting and coin collecting. There were two of these, like the Elsewhere coin collectors and the Elsewhere stamp collectors, and they were fighting each other because, who would want to collect stamps or who would want to collect coins? So you guys have to. I don't know. It was an argument, and it involved like this whole big. We would work for either side and go to their headquarters or try to infiltrate them and listen and like steal stuff. It was another bizarre experience, but that was all fan created. These people created these experiences, for us, for the other players, and they weren't like game makers like Jeff. They were just like a group of friends. So that was kind of cool that it kind of continued on in this whole world that Jeff created.
Yeah. How long did the game last? Was it a year?
4 years.
4 years. Oh, did something
2004,
went on
I think. Yeah. No, it was 2004 to 2008. Is how long it lasted, because in between each act there was almost like sometimes a year where every single day, like we were going, like all of us, investigators were going on the website trying to email, and it was a long game,
but
it was a
really fun.
Yep, exactly.
I see how you obviously got really close to it then. If it's lasted across 4 years, that's obviously a good chunk of your life. You obviously spent playing that game, and that must have been so fun. Especially when you finally got updates after like a year of break, and it's like, it's back, guys.
I would take time off of school. I would, request days off work. just to do like some of these experiences, and it was worth it every time.
Absolutely, that sounds amazing. What do you actually think of the newest one then? You know, obviously now that they're bringing it back with the new, but it's obviously all online. Is it still okay? I know it's obviously not gonna match what it was, but 10 years ago, because this is obviously, like you said, it is for a promotion for a TV show, unlike Jejune, where it wasn't for anything.
I'm excited. Unfortunately, I came in a little bit too late. I think I came in right as they posted the new Cinebody, assignments, and I kind of missed the first part. But from what I can tell, and the polish actually, especially on the EPWA.life and the new Neurology website, it looks cool. I think they're going to be using a lot of that, I'm guessing, as footage for the show itself. But I'm just excited to even though, like you said, it's not the same, to kind of be put back into that world and, think about it again is absolutely amazing. And it may be different for somebody who's new, who's never done it before. Be like, oh, this is kind of neat, whatever. But to me and us, this is it's great.
Yeah, I bet it's great nostalgia. To look,
yes, there you go.
Even though it's exactly. Even though it's not quite what it is, it's just great to be kind of back in that world and look back and hearing all the references. I bet is great from like the trailer.
Oh yes.
Because when I forgot his name, Jason Segel, where he walked into the room, that was obviously supposed to be the very first. I want to say puzzle, but obviously it wasn't technically a puzzle like you claimed. I guess I want to say mission, because it's like Grand Theft Auto, where you go to different
first
missions.
act.
But yeah. So yeah, I bet it's just great to see kind of all that portrayed in a TV version of all the events that have happened. I'm sure I saw the Sasquatch somewhere.
I am still just so blown away that this game, this experience that I had, is now going to be on AMC of all places. It's just, I don't know. I'm really happy for everybody involved. It's a huge project.
It's really nice. It's nice to see it's going to have a definitive place now in history for people to look back on, because I always say that one of the problems with ARGs is once they're done, all the sites that existed for it get taken down, because obviously it costs money to keep it running. So you can never have someone just go back and look at it and kind of re-experience what happened. The main experience always comes from those players that interacted with it at the time, which is kind of why I ended up wanting to make my channel about alternate reality games and cover them, because I kind of wanted to try and relive those moments for people who didn't experience them. So I always try now to get in contact with the creators to see if they have HD versions of any of the files like saved on their old computer, because I managed to get in contact just recently. I keep telling this story to everyone. The more I think about it now, I'm just like, but I probably should get the video done first before I just start talking about how I've got it. But Ellen Lee, the one of the main creators and leaders for the first alternate reality game, or the first official alternate reality game, The Beast, has a bunch of files.
I remember that one.
Yeah, from Steven Spielberg's AI.
Wow, yes, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I know. And that's because that one's one of the hardest to find, because obviously it was so long ago, 2001, I believe it started, and most of the things have just completely disappeared. And back then, I don't even think people were documenting it, or recording. Like you said obviously you went to record stuff to show people what you found, because everyone wanted to see what you were uncovering. But for this particular alternate reality game, there's barely anything out there online. And so I just kind of reached out to Ellen Lee to see if he had anything available, because rewinding back a couple of months, I reached out to the creators of Junko Junsui just asking to see if their app game was still available, and they said, well, we actually have, the game isn't available, but we have all the file assets for you if you want to use those.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so they had all the HD stuff, much higher quality than what's online. So I thought, well, if they have that, maybe others have stuff from their previous games. And so I managed to get into a Skype chat with with Ellen Lee, and he was like, well, yeah, I have files, a bunch of files saved on an old drive, but I'm not sure if any of it still works. I can send you the link to it, put it in a Dropbox, and hope for the best, but it's obviously down to you from there, because I don't have time to organize any of it. So he sent me all the files. It's all unorganized, of course, but I'm finding certain bits and bats, and I'm piecing it all together to hopefully put into an actual video, and that'll be fun, because obviously I've got the highest quality possible stuff for those said websites. And that should be an interesting one. He told me a funny story actually about their experience from the creative side of alternate reality games, which I found fun.
I always love to hear that.
Yeah, I always hear the perspective of players, which is obviously still great, but you very rarely hear from the creative side, especially the first ever ARG. And they put together a timeline of what puzzles they'll be releasing and how long it'll take for players to obviously solve. So they go. They had 6 months. It was going to last for 6 months, and they had 6 months worth of puzzles planned for the artificial intelligence ARG. And what they wanted to do was they wanted to release the first 3 months of puzzles for players, and then players could solve that over the course of 3 months, and then they have 3 months to make the next 3 months worth of puzzles. So they uploaded all the puzzles there available for people to find and track down and go down the rabbit hole, and within 2 hours they solved the 3 months worth of puzzles that they had planned. And they were just gobsmacked. They were shocked. Their jaws had dropped to the floor. They couldn't believe that their entire work had just been solved in the space of 2 hours, 3 months worth of puzzles. And so
that is so great.
It is amazing. I'm gonna have to ask if he'd be available to get onto a podcast, because he's got tons of these stories. But they all made a decision that they were going to kind of lock themselves into their own desks, offices, and just work away on puzzles to get this thing sorted and add a lot more to the story. They obviously got more of a structure at that point as well, as in that they would release a particular set of puzzles on a Tuesday and release them weekly rather than all at once. So that's
a good idea.
Yeah, lesson learned the hard way, unfortunately. But it was 2001, to be fair, so I guess we hadn't fully grasped the internet at that point and how clever people can be.
It's crazy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. It's just the creativity that you find online, and I think that's also what's so great about ARGs, is that it brings so many different people together. No matter what beliefs you may have, you put that all aside and you just use all of your creative skills just to work on one problem. It's amazing how it works, like every single time, no matter what. So I think it's pretty cool.
Absolutely, it is brilliant. I guess we could talk a little bit about Brian, just to kind of give a little bit of explanation on who Brian is, just in case anyone who's listening to to this podcast and they don't know who Brian is. But he worked. This particular character worked for the new Neurology Network, and has basically gone rogue, hasn't he? He's what's the name of the van? I keep forgetting the actual name they call it.
I don't remember. I don't remember either. But I know the van. That van actually is somewhat, I think, an homage to. It was called the Time Truck 13, or the Time Car 13, and that is a actual car, or I would say van, that's very prominent around San Francisco and Oakland, where this gentleman who lives in there, he travels around teaching people about the metaphysical universe. And in the Jejune Institute world, he was actually part of this Elsewhere, belief system. And we actually had to go find this guy for one little side mission at the flea market in Oakland. And we chatted with him, and he just kind of gave us his his albeit very strange ramblings on the life, the universe, and everything. But I think looking at the truck that they made for the game, I think that's what they kind of based the time capsule 13 or time truck 13 on that. So
that's so clever. It's like there's all these tiny little references. I remember. Are you up to date on the Squatch that appeared in the Discord servers?
I heard of this. Yes, I did hear of the Squatch.
Of the Squatch. Yes. It was pretty interesting. That caused a lot of debate on whether or not it was real, because there was a game jacker at the very start. And unfortunately, one of the Discord servers is run by a lot of young people who have not actually taken part in alternate reality games before. So they were kind of unfortunately open arms about anything that comes towards them. And so this guy got bored and decided to start making this huge, really detailed, his version of alternate reality games connected to the NNN. And unfortunately, they were just like, oh yeah, this is part of the game. Woo, this is so interesting. We're going down this rabbit hole. And it just went south so fast. And it turned into a nightmare. And so they became so paranoid about everything. And then the Squatch showed up with such vague information. And, oh, wow. And the thing is, we had another server basically we said that, don't game jack or you'll be banned. And the Squatch came along and said something like, I helped work on this game, and then just kind of left. And we were like, well, where's your proof? But the thing is, even if he was telling the truth or not, we couldn't. They were saying like ban him immediately, and we're like, well, we can't just ban him straight away because he hasn't said anything else. We need to hear him out if he, just on the off chance he actually is part of the game. As much as we don't, we don't like game jackers, we don't want to jump to conclusions.
You don't want to be banning somebody who's from the
yeah,
staff.
Exactly. Just banning someone who was part of exactly. So we were trying to wait for him to come back, and he eventually did, and he uploaded a PDF file with an image of a chin, which we managed to connect the dots, and it looks, well, people are pretty confident that it's the same chin as Jason Segel, and the image.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh yeah, and the image predated, the PDF file actually, predated the time we found the flyer that was in the picture. So, that was convincing to me, but people were still very skeptical at that point because I don't think they realized that was actually very good evidence to support that he was. So they were still on edge, and unfortunately, but the reason I brought up the Squatch was because literally his name, the Squatch, if you're not paying attention, you could just easily gloss over it. The Squatch is obviously a reference to the Sasquatch in the Jejune Institute, and
exactly. And Marshall's love for the Sasquatch and How I Met Your Mother. If that's Jason Segel, yes. I mean, you put it all together.
Oh, man, these guys are smart. Just everything I bring up in that game, it's like, oh, that's a reference to the Jejune Institute. Oh, wow. Everything is. It's very detailed. I had no idea about the van.
That's a very little known fact.
Maybe that's who Brian's going to become. He's going to become like the... He's gonna become that
the
man.
guy at the Oakland flea market.
Yeah, exactly. He's just gonna appear and start rambling to people on the street.
Well, to be fair, I think everybody within this game world does that. Oh man. Actually, I do have one funny story about Brian or Dry Bones ?
Yeah. Okay.
One of my really close friends back then when I was playing the game, his name's Jason. Really good dude. And he was just on BART, which is the local Bay Area rapid transit subway system. And as he's getting off, he a random action figure hits him in the back of the head, right? And he turns around and he sees Dry Bones, Brian, saying, "Jason, it's you!" Like, what do you say? It was like, "Elsewhere public works forever," and then runs away. Just in the middle of this. I think it was just by pure coincidence, but those are the kind of funny, weird things that would happen during the whole experience.
Oh, man. That is crazy. Was Dry Bones originally just a player and then turned into a character?
Yes, I'm 99% positive.
99%.
I think he was probably giving ideas to Jeff from what it sounds like, because after Dry Bones came on, that's when we did the protest. That's when a lot of these more kind of out there, exciting, real life experiences with a lot more like interaction with the characters in the game started. So I think that was a big part of Dry Bones.
Okay.
Influence.
Do you know what Dry Bones sounds like? Because I think Brian spoke on the live stream a few times, so you could take a listen to that and see.
And I did, and I think so. But once again, I always get kind of nervous talking. I mean, I'll do it with you guys if hey, if you're on the new Neurology Network, probably should have said this even earlier, but spoilers. I'm not sure how much they're going to recycle the experience of the Jejune Institute to this new game. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody.
As far as I'm aware, I don't think there's been too many puzzles that have been the exact same. I think a lot of it has been more references that have connected to the Jejune Institute. I think they're kind of doing their own puzzles, except for the very beginning, obviously, with the flyers. But
yes.
A lot of it seems to be more online based, whereas obviously the Jejune was a lot of that was experiencing it outside, and so it'll be interesting to see. I think when does it come out? Dispatches from Elsewhere. Is it March? Is that when it's coming out?
Yeah, I want to say late March, early April.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably that sounds about right. I haven't had a chance to fully check up on the alternate reality game that's happening now. Is there anything new that's come out January? Nothing new? Okay.
Nothing new. It's everybody, though, is really diving deep into the Elsewhere Philatelic Society and the, I can't say it, so the Stamp Collector Society. Yeah. And like they're trying to see if it's all part of this current game. And I'm kind of nudging them saying, check it out. Look into it. You'll get a whole lot of good lore and backstory of Elsewhere. But can almost guarantee you it has nothing to do with the current game. But, hey, let people investigate and have fun, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to ask you. Eric, is there anything you want to add?
Not that I can think of.
No? Is there anything you want to add, Cantillions?
No, I mean, just want to say thank you so much for having me on. It's like I said, it's been kind of great to go down this rabbit hole one more time, and I'm excited for the game, for the new show, and guys, if you're any sort of aspiring game developer out there that want to do something like this, just don't think that you're just limited to only online. Create a world, create like a backstory, and if it's good, if it's entertaining, if it's interesting, people will join, and we'll all have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a nice way to end this podcast. Perfect. Thank you guys for watching, and I guess we'll see you in the next episode.